You know, I think I'm on the right side of history when I managed to piss off someone who regularly spews out neo-Nazi and hateful rhetoric, as well as another person who's pro-lolicon and anti-woke. It just seems like, oh, I don't know, that I'm winning in the morality department. Sure, I don't got the large numbers that they do because reactionary content is all the craze at the moment. But honestly, I prefer my community to be full of normal, queer-friendly people rather than those who will falsely claim that I am a PDF, a commie, that I am supposedly trans and will never be a real woman, that I sound like a man, or a quote, white left supremacist with toxic femininity. I am like none of these things, but I can tell you who I am. Hi everyone, my name is Saphera de Noma, but you can call me Saf. I wasn't expecting to make a video like this one today, but I figured I'd address a few things. I did want to make a short video regarding Kirsche's one-day Twitch ban, but it seems like this will have to be a video about two closely related subjects instead. If you don't know what's been going on, let's just start with Kirsche and her recent Twitch ban. Kirsche is a Fox VTuber who garnered quite a bit of notoriety over the past month or so, mostly with the harmful rhetoric she spews, which ranges from calling people the equivalent of illegals, advocating for mass deportation, believing in the Great Replacement theory.
They're building like a 2.5 million pound mosque somewhere in like northern England that doesn't even have like a large Muslim population. And I was like, of course they are. Yeah, of course they are. I get increasingly angry when I see people who are just like, well, they're not doing anything illegal, so like you can't really be mad at them. It's like this is very clearly a hostile takeover. Like, we're experiencing it in the US via illegal immigration. They're experiencing it in the UK via, like, the migrant crisis nonsense and refugees, which, potato, potato, basically the same fucking thing. And it's like, our politicians are assisting these people with both demographic replacement as well as just making citizens' lives worse in general. They're changing the entire culture of these countries. It might not be a hostile takeover like you see in war. There's no guns and battleships and bombs, but it is still a hostile takeover. It is still going to change these countries irreparably in the future. UK, it's almost all of Europe. I'm specifically speaking of the UK because of the mosque thing.
Calls trans people autogynephiliac males. Agrees with Asmongold that all trans kids are a victim of a parent with mental illness, advocates and supports violence against people whose ideologies or behavior she disagrees with, such as retweeting about this one man who shot two peaceful environmental protesters dead, and she even advocated for unaliving commies with this tweet saying, "Happy Otoya Yamaguchi Day," with a mock-up of the murder using small versions of her fox self, and when confronted, she doubled down it was communism when, in fact, the murdered chairman was part of the Japanese Socialist Party, which is different from the Japanese Communist Party that was formed 20 years prior to the actual Socialist Party. So this girl doesn't even know the difference between socialism and communism, probably because anything on the left to her is bad. But that's ironic, given she called out a VTuber who made a joke about the assassination attempt on Trump, with Kirsche saying, quote, "Kind of grotesque to see VTubers cheering for an assassination attempt," followed by, "Take your meds, schizo R-word." And let's not forget Kirsche has a parody image of her as Trump in the aforementioned event. Gee, Kirsche, if assassination attempts are bad, why do you advocate and support more than two of them just because it aligns with your ideology? Yikes-a-roni, grandstanding much? Now, there's way more about Kirsche. Regarding the neo-Nazi rhetoric, Kirsche complains she couldn't name a video game character after Anders Breivik, an infamous neo-Nazi Norwegian terrorist convicted of killing 77 people, who she refers to affectionately as a commie killer.
It will forever make me giggle that it was a problem when my Smurf's name in Paragon was Anders Breivik. They were like, well, we've been getting reports about how your name is offensive, so you gotta change your name. And I changed it to Umkhonto ve Sizwe, which was the propaganda military arm of Nelson Mandela that would murder his political opponents. And I was able to have that name until Paragon shut down. Not a single person a single person question. I was like, if I can't be a nationalistic commie killer, why not just be black nationalist commies instead? You know, that's probably okay, right?
And he 100% is a neo-Nazi, having done the Hail Hitler salute proudly on camera, and is a Norwegian terrorist who bombed 8 people and killed 69 of the Workers' Youth League. She also is given the moderator role in Synthetic Man's Chat, a male streamer who also spews neo-Nazi rhetoric. Someone in chat brought up Kristallnacht, and like a normal, well-adjusted person, Kirsche joked that it was instead Kirstallnacht, which was a clear reference to the Kristallnacht earlier, or the Night of Broken Glass in English, where Nazis incited riots and destroyed property of Jewish people and incarcerating them in concentration camps for the purpose of, genocide. Kirsche also retweeted and replied to one of her fans who bought and proudly displayed her plushie amidst a bunch of Nazi memorabilia, which includes the swastika and this collection of totally not praising Hitler books. This fan in particular also admits to being a pro-white activist, said he wouldn't mind if Kirsche and another grifter VTuber became a Nazi, and Kirsche had this retweet on her page for well over 24 hours after the initial callouts. She later posted this, basically saying she initially didn't want to delete the retweet because she didn't want to cave to, quote, cancel culture. It sounds more like a pride problem rather than a morality problem, and that she's okay with Nazi rhetoric and, quite literally, Nazi fans being part of her community. This is only just the tip of the iceberg, though, and hell, a whole video can be dedicated to Kirsche, as well as her related gamer subs drama, but that's for another time. This video is about her Twitch ban because the prevailing narrative on YouTube is that Kirsche is innocent, that it's all because of Anna Valens, a trans journalist for Vice who wrote articles about the rise of right-wing bigotry within the VTuber community, who highlighted a lot of the opinions that Kirsche and her community spew out. Now, Kirsche did threaten via a very unserious PDF document, along with a printed copy, to a Vice location, basically threatening legal action if Vice did not take down the articles. Vice did ultimately take down the articles, but I suspect and presume that it's because a lot of companies would just rather not deal with a headache and proceed to just take down the articles in questions and just move on. It's quite normal behavior in a company if you've ever worked for one, because legal stuff is always a headache. They'd rather settle stuff out of court or avoid court altogether, if possible. Kirsche's fans rejoiced when the articles were taken down, but Anna Valens still has her job and proceeded to write an article about Among Us DLC and Vampire Survivors the very same day. Now, I'll admit, regarding Anna Valens, she has quite a bit of a questionable history at times. She seems to have a rather hypersexual history, considering she is an adult-oriented creator who makes fetish content and writes adult-related articles, and has, in my opinion, put her foot in her own mouth a few times in the metaphorical way, not the fetish way. Thanks. Since it'll be relevant to the dissenting commenters below, of which I'm sure there will be plenty because the hate campaign from Kirsche's and Rev's fans is absolutely insane, I'll address them briefly here. Anna Valens had said incredibly exaggerated and distasteful things in the past, essentially making up a fictional scenario about breeding farms. But Anna Valens also remarks that this was said because, quote, in the middle of the pandemic, everyone was losing their shit on Twitter, and I thought it was kind of bizarre. I wanted to create a tweet that was basically so outlandish that it was outrage bait. You'd have to be blinded by rage to think I was serious, sitting there thinking all trans women are like secret gooners or something. Now, I want to clarify. I listened to the voice tweet. I cannot share it on here because it's a bit too explicit, and it is not my cup of tea, nor would I ever condone such a thing. But it's clear it's so exaggerative and hyperbolic that it literally cannot be someone's real fucking thoughts. If it is, sure, yeah, that's dangerous as hell, I'll agree with that regard, but it's not. So anyway, that's something the people who dislike Anna Valens will constantly bring up, so just took the time to debunk it here. Now, Kirsche and her fans seem to have this weird hyperfixation on Anna Valens. I get that if someone makes an article on you, that you'd be a little bit obsessed in the moment, but after Vice took down the articles, you basically, quote, won. So why do you still obsess over her? This obsession is what led Kirsche to find Anna Valens's archive of our own account, which, if you don't know what AO3 is, that's the site for fanfiction of all kinds, from safe for work content to explicit adult content that is basically corn. Kirsche proceeded to, while live on stream on May 13th, 2025, look at Anna's AO3 account and her works, starting off innocuously with going over the different fics, the tags, and the synopses. Now, if this is all that Kirsche did, I'd argue this is well within Twitch TOS. But Twitch does not like it when you start going into the more explicit side of things, including reading quite literally details of penetration. In fact, the Twitch TOS specifically states no graphic depictions of sex acts such as erotica. And guess what Kirsche did? She opened one of the fics and began scrolling through it, reading passages. She quite literally says, "I don't know if I can read this," before proceeding to read it. The following clip will be severely redacted and blurred because, it's literally explicit adult material. But it's to demonstrate the audacity of this situation. She even calls it porn at the end of the near 15-minute long period going over Anna's fictions.
I don't think I can even read this. Slowly a brace developed. My sister fond of me. So she pressed my head in. Second by second, she closed her eyes. As she swallowed up ravenous. That's enough strange, mentally ill pornography for today, chat.
Now, I get Kirsche hates Anna Valens for supposedly trying to ruin her career, but don't you think it's a bit obsessive to seek out the fanfic account and read aloud the smut of a person you dislike? Kirsche seems almost like an obsessive toxic ex who couldn't get over the breakup and now has to actively find and smear their ex's name. I'm deadass being for real. This kind of dynamic is something that people would ship y'all together with because it's literally just that much tension. Anyway, Kirsche got banned on May 15, 2025 for a singular day for sexual content, as shown by Kirsche's tweet. Kirsche's caption is interesting, however, because she seems to be blaming Anna Valens for her ban, going, "Oh wow, I wonder who could be behind this," especially after that AI slop article put out about how I read Anna Valens' fanfiction. Truly a mystery. The harassers cry out as they strike you. I took a look and found the offending clip as shown earlier and said, "Kirsche, honey, please stop harassing Anna Valens. You earned this ban. You straight up read NSFW fanfic on your live stream. This is against Twitch TOS. Undeniably, ya dumb as fuck." And after some time hearing what nonsense her aggravated fans had to say to me, I jokingly engaged in a bit of hyperbole myself and said, Kirsche is endangering potential minors lurking in her community by reading smut on stream and still up in her YouTube VOD. Kirsche is lucky that all she got was a one-day ban. This is literally disgusting. Now, yes, I did say this partially as rage bait because I knew it'd piss off her fans, but the rest of my arguments is not inaccurate. I am often told Kirsche has the highest restriction available and bans minors on site, but guess what, buddy? Minors don't have to be in chat, they can be lurking. This is why the no explicit NSFW rule even exists in the first place on Twitch, because unfortunately, Twitch and YouTube is not an 18+ platform, so kids are unfortunately around and present. While Kirsche does have 18+ in her Twitch rules, it is oddly absent in her YouTube livestream rules considering she multi-streams. Her haters claim that I don't have 18+ in my rules, but it's quite literally in my Twitch rules and is the first thing on there, rather than Kirsche's second rule, and my rules haven't changed since I started streaming in 2022. Although it does need a brush up in the year 2025, but the 18+ rule will never change because I know and am aware that I say some unsay-so things out of pocket, though not all the time. At the same time, though, Anna Valens was being brought up as the instigator and equally at fault for having fart ASMR content in a vor/inflation VR chat clip. The main difference at the time was that Anna Valens had the sexual themes label, which stops you from watching until you agree there may be sexual themes, and Twitch themselves say that minors will, by default, not see any channels tagged as having sexual themes. Kirsche, meanwhile, had no labels when I checked right after she was unbanned. As of making this script on the evening of May 18, 2025, there does seem to be a copious amount of labels added to her Twitch stream, presumably to prevent further instances against her, so good for her, I suppose. But it is unclear whether these were present on the day of the stream. Anna Valens did also get a one-day Twitch ban for sexual content, and I suspect it's because of that vor/inflation clip, because it was honestly quite egregious, and the VR chat model in question was dressed in a skimpy outfit. Personally, I see this as fair for both sides, because these two things, such as reading smut live on stream about penetration and disturbing prolonged fetish content, are things I wouldn't condone ever on Twitch, regardless of who does it and their political affiliation. And honestly, that's kind of all I had to say about Kirsche's ban. That she deserved it. Her fans didn't like me saying that reading smut is against the rules on Twitch, often claiming that she was doing it because Anna Valence wrote it, that it's public, that it was educational and newsworthy. And I'm just here like, y'all really dumb as bricks, aren't you? If you're a normal person, genuinely, tell me, do you think reading and showing explicit depictions of sex, even in written form, is allowed? Normal people are gonna say no, because that's straight up corn. But Kirsche doubled down, saying, are they afraid I will read more of Anna's fan fiction? Why would that be a problem? Anna posted the fan fictions publicly, so they want people to read them, right? With her fans telling her she should read more. But hey, Kirsche, the major adult platform Pornhub is also public, but you aren't that stupid to stream Pornhub videos on your stream, right? So why is fanfiction the exception? Now, because of all these tweets, as well as the one I made about being an anti-lolicon because one of Kirsche's dumbass followers thought it's somehow a red flag to be an anti-lolicon, I somehow landed on Rev Says Desu's hit list. I'm flattered Rev took the time to go through some of my stuff. He even remembered me as someone who covered drama, though he misremembered that I stopped doing it. I didn't. I'm just on a mild bit of a YouTube hiatus because I have a life outside of the internet. I don't have the time to make daily slop videos like yourself, Rev. He called me a hypocrite because he conflated me saying that Kirsche endangering minors by reading explicit smut is the same thing as advocating for no adult jokes or adult topics whatsoever because think of the kids.
Yeah, we're not doing this. You really want to make this standard for other people, basically saying you are putting people in danger if you have any sort of adult themes on your stream. That is what they're running with here. Imagine extending that logic to everything. I haven't heard one word from this individual about lewd tubers who are on Twitch without age restrictions on their content, doing very sexual content. But Kirsche, with an 18+ warning on her stream and across all of her accounts, is somehow getting singled out in this situation. And unfortunately for this person, you can start looking at their own content. If you truly believe that you shouldn't show anything on stream that would be inappropriate for a child watching, well, guess what? We're going to apply that to your content as well.
He proceeded to bring up some of my clips where I make a one-off comment about Sancho railing me.
This is their pinned tweet talking about the type of content that they share with their audience.
The only one I'm hurting is myself and you guys who choose to listen to me talk about how thirsty I am over a fictional character that does not exist and how much I want them to rail me. But that's besides the point.
So again, criticizing Kirsche for reading a fan fiction on her stream because it's endangering children who might be in the audience, but you can talk about fictional characters railing you on your stream. And your audience understands that dynamic according to them. So what are we talking about here? The hypocrisy is through the roof.
And how he made assumptions that beyond this clip, I talk in detail about how I want that fictional butch vampire to raw dog me a lot on stream, which I do not because I'm not stupid. Hell, he even brought up my human centipede hypothetical clip, showing only the thumbnail to make it seem like I'm some crazy degenerate who goes into detail.
Oh, look at that. A 5-minute video talking about your favorite positions in a human centipede situation. And honestly, the way they go into graphic detail about how they would want to function in this, it kind of makes sense that they were defending that Anna Valence clip. I mean, it really just kind of goes one in one.
But no, it's actually pretty whatever because saying my friend shits a lot so I don't want to be right behind her really isn't explicit, now is it?
I'm just explaining. If hypothetically I had to choose what position I had to be in a human centipede and the first one was gone, I would have rather be last so hopefully the person in front of me fucking dies midway through eating shit. That's why I don't have to.
Rev also brings up how all my comments about inviting Sancho to spend the night with me on a YouTube video about the lad's period tracker drama is somehow super explicit and dangerous for kids. But it's quite literally the most tame thing imaginable. It is cringe though, that much I'll admit.
And you definitely wouldn't be uploading something like this called period trackers are for gooners, and then you say stuff like this in the video.
You know, it never occurred to me that one day I'd be yapping about how a period tracker being added into a video game would suddenly be the spark of controversy because some people from the cesspool side of the internet who have never talked to a real woman in their lives suddenly think that periods are gooner material. Like, huh? What the hell do you mean by that? The only ones gooning about periods, you know, the thing where women bleed monthly, are probably vampires who want to eat that thing out. Now, on the other hand, if you're a female vampire with short blonde messy hair with a hot red fur boa on one shoulder and your name is Sancho, you're always welcome in my house, bestie. For the love of God, please, periods are not something uterus havers can control. It is not sexy to be in pain for a week every month. Getting words of reaffirmation may be, quote, parasocial to an extent, but it's not equivalent to gooning. As somebody who goons regularly to a fictional vampire waifu, please, don't get it twisted, bestie. If these clips were really so bad and damaging for minors, Rev, you wouldn't put this uncensored and unfiltered on your channel. Yet he's out here accusing me of making bad faith claims when he's making bad faith assumptions about me based on literally nothing. While I do acknowledge that I probably shouldn't have been super exaggerative in the first place to piss off their side because we all know how much their side loves to handle exaggeration as quite literal truth, Rev falsely equivalating my adamancy that reading smut is bad to mean that I'm suddenly a hypocritical enemy number one for the occasional dumb adult humor is just completely false. There's no way in hell that you think an innocuous one-off joke is anywhere close to reading literal depictions of sexual intercourse in explicit detail like Kirsche chose to do live on stream for nearly 15 minutes. One is quite literally corn, and it's not the one-off joke. Rev brings up me talking about Gooning Tuesday and bringing out the jiggly physics because I canonically am flat as a board, as you can see.
So here's one of their recent streams, Gooning Tuesday. Yes, they're bringing out the jiggle physics, which of course they're playing Nikke. And here's a clip from it. This is what they're playing and doing on their own stream while saying that Kirsche is endangering children because they read a fan fiction.
And how I played and had one clip of Nikke be, quote, dangerous for kids. But are they for real? For all its goonery, it's not illegal, nor is it extremely explicit to stream Nikke on Twitch. If it was, there wouldn't be a playable category for Nikke. There isn't one for Honey Pop, for instance, because that is straight up corn. But Nikke is a game rated T for teens in the Google Play Store for suggestive themes. And on the Apple Store, it's rated 12 for mild sexual themes. If Nikke is rated for teens despite the outlandish shit that's in there, then the shit that I say is by far one of the most tamest things. Trying to go, aha, you're a danger to kids when this game is playable by kids is the funniest thing I've seen Rev ever try to claim. Compare that to Kirsche reading quite literal 18+ rated content on Archive of Our Own, explicitly about penetration and a focus on genitalia. Yeah, that's more damaging to a kid than one-off jokes. Rev also thought it was a gotcha moment when I must be a super hypocrite being an anti-lolicon playing Nikke when supposedly there's lolly fan service in the game.
Would you play this in front of children? I don't think so. So if you're going to hold Kirsche to this standard, well, guess what? It's going to be held to you as well. And I also find it very ironic they're playing Nikke while claiming to be also anti-lolly despite the fact that there's lolly fan service in Nikke. Just another example of their hypocrisy.
To clarify, I played Nikke for the first and only time on April Fool's Day as a joke because my core community knows I'm asexual and not a fan of gooner-heavy gotcha games. Beyond going through the Nikkepedia at chat's request, I was genuinely just focused more on the story and gameplay, which, by the way, was pretty neat. But I didn't care for any of the lolly Nikkes and still don't. As for my personal thoughts on lolicons, it just isn't my thing because I've seen how degenerate and disgusting lolicons are with how so many people openly thirst over lewd depictions of fictional children. It makes me deeply uncomfortable, but I have never gone so far as to call lolicons PDFs because I'm aware that, for the most part, these aren't depictions of real children. But genuine PDFs do and have used lolly art to groom children. I was groomed myself growing up, something I bet his fans wouldn't give a rat's ass about and would probably tell me I deserved it. But the normalization of this fetish art is dangerous because of genuine, actual PDFs that lurk within their ranks. I hate that stuff, and that's it. Keep it to yourself, and if you are a normal functioning human otherwise, cool, I got no issues as long as you keep that shit far away from me. But trying to get that normalized and accepted by the wider community will always be met with backlash because you guys seriously do have a PDF and a groomer problem within those that like lolly and shota stuff. I'm sorry if you hate hearing that, but you can't be ignorant of it either. Anyway, I went on a bit of a tirade, but the point is, Rev's call out and depiction of me as a pure hypocrite is by far stupid. He exaggerates, conflating the things I said to the extreme when it was never about the extreme in the first place. Actual pornography, such as reading explicit fanfiction, is quite literally damaging to a growing minor's mind, but nothing I've ever said or done ever equates to the same level of graphic and explicit adult material. If you can't see the difference on the scale of casual adult remark to straight up corn, I'm so sorry that you perceive the world in only black and white and that you believe everyone must be just like you. But Rev, why are you calling me out on my supposed hypocrisy and degeneracy when you are far more degenerate on main? I know you aren't advocating for the kids or for censorship or whatever in your video, but why would I or anyone normal take your ass seriously when you used to ERP on main with a femboy, even going so far as to use hentai images to finish said ERP, including an image from a very controversial Shotokan anime? Seriously, Rev, I ain't gonna take none of what you and your little lackeys have to say seriously when, before you met your wife and love her so much that you have to announce it in your name, you were gooning it to femboys, posting about your pregnant little sister complex, and attempting to ERP unashamedly with random repliers on main. Your videos on Most Popular is also just straight up degenerate filth. I've never gooned like that on main, and y'all claim I'm the one with the problem? You fucking wish. Anyway, I said my piece. I still think Kirsche being banned for a day for her stupidity was 100% deserved. She's unbanned now because, the ban was literally for a single day. But Kirsche, next time, maybe don't read literal corn on the internet and try to justify it as, well, the journalist who attacked me wrote it and it's public, so therefore I can read it. Because that's quite literally the dumbest argument on earth. And Rev, kindly fuck off. Thanks. As for the rest of y'all who support me, thank you for listening all this way through. Keep it vibing, everyone. See you next time. Bye!